just want to take this time to take off my hat because I've been given specific instructions to take off my hat.
You can wear the hat.
And to show America that this is no weave.
Oh,
so
okay.
please stop writing me the letters, asking me if this is. Go ahead, Phil. Dig
But this is a piece right here.
No, it ain't.
Back in the late 90s and 2000s, I was having a series of nervous breakdowns. I had managed to keep it under wraps for a while, but I had an episode in New York at a hotel, and it got leaked out to the press. That was like just unraveling. I had never heard bipolar. I had never even thought about anyone's mental issues, never mind my own. So I had no idea that any of that stuff was even at work inside of me.
Do y'all remember how badly Hollywood demonized Lisa Nicole Carson, calling her crazy and difficult to work with? From being on our screens looking all beautiful with her natural hair, she disappeared like she was never even there in the first place. Perhaps the hazy air has somewhat resolved in Hollywood because Lisa has now joined the list of celebs opening up about their twisted experiences in the business. And child, after you hear about how the big shots chewed her up and messed with her mind, it's gonna be hard to comprehend exactly how she's even still standing and in her right mind after all of this. But Lisa isn't just talking for the sake of talking. She's coming out with receipts and timelines to elaborate on exactly how she went from Ally McBeal to being homeless. Now, if you were alive with reasonable awareness in the 90s, there's no way that you hadn't heard about the great Lisa Nicole Carson. You know, Carla Reese on ER and Renee and Ally McBeal. Yeah, that's her. And if you didn't watch her then baby, you just too young, or you really weren't watching good TV. So she wasn't an A-list actress, but at that time, a Black woman in Hollywood getting steady work was really a big deal. So Lisa was doing all right. And she was beautiful, with a curvy body that she didn't go under the knife for, as well as long, big black curls, alluring eyes, beautiful, natural, full lips that really set her sex appeal apart from her peers. Lisa Nicole Carson was that girl. And if you don't know, child, ask your uncle. He'll tell you.
Now, do you ever know everybody talks to, you got two jobs. It's hard enough for the average Black woman to get one job in Hollywood.
She's been acting ever since she was a child, and by the time she was in her 20s, Lisa had something going for herself. She was eating them all up through the 90s, okay? Giving Lisa Nicole a role in any movie was like adding hot sauce to your food. Baby, she was just the right flavor and spice to elevate it. Any role she got instantly made her more likable and popular, and it didn't matter if she was the lead or supporting role in a project, because one thing that Lisa was going to do, she was going to show up and act like the rent was due, baby. And it's hard to imagine how classic movies like Devil in a Blue Dress and Eve's Bayou would look if she weren't in them. Although she often played supporting roles, Lisa was the kind of actress that you could confidently bet would become a much bigger star in the future. She had confidence in herself, as well as always exuded a bubbly and vivacious personality in whatever space she occupied. But unfortunately, she hit some snags along the road, and her life derailed horribly. There was once a very nasty rumor that Lisa was so desperate to land a role to the point where she was allegedly willing to allow a dog to perform cunnilingus on her. Like, what? And do you know what makes this even more crazy? It was rumored that she never got the role. After she allegedly did it, which I'm still finding it hard to believe, by the way, the director that she was trying to please allegedly laughed in her face and sent her on her way. Now, while the idea of that is hard to digest, it isn't off-brand the fact that celebrities have been known to get themselves into some peculiar situations, all in the name of maintaining relevance. But if this did happen, the director really set her up for failure. His sole motive was to humiliate her. And unfortunately, he did just that. And that was when her image and reputation in Hollywood really began to tank. When the rumors started going around, people didn't feel sorry for her because it sounded like she was just another celeb who was willing to sell their soul for a check. Everywhere she turned, people were trying to play her and reduce the significance of what she had contributed to the industry. Lisa really began to unravel. According to a blind item, people were saying that Lisa became heavily dependent on controlled substances. Every party she had attended, she would allegedly engage in all of the drugs and alcohol she had access to. She was often high on more expensive substances and nose candy while she was still earning large checks and could afford the habit. But once the checks slowed down, she had to settle for more affordable and lower end fixes. Once you become addicted to partying and getting high, it's really hard to beat the habit because you don't want to forfeit the feeling that comes with it. She even had a boyfriend who was down for all of the partying and the lifestyle she chose, but it even got to a point that he noticed that Lisa was way in over her head, and he ended up leaving that relationship too. Her family wouldn't talk to her because she had to borrow lots of money in order to fund her habit. And since she was high all the time, Lisa wasn't working, so both her manager and her agent cut ties and walked away as well. Thankfully, Lisa wasn't too far gone to see what her choices were doing to her life, and she was able to get some help and ultimately find work outside of Hollywood. But according to Lisa, her drugs and partying weren't the main reason why Hollywood kicked her out and also had no remorse doing so. I mean, can you imagine how empty Hollywood would be if they blacklisted every actor that partied and indulged in drugs? Child, please. But according to Lisa, the biggest reason that no one wanted to work with her again was because of her bipolar disorder. The thing is, Lisa had always been a big personality, whether she was on set, doing interviews, or just living life. And that was one of the reasons why people loved her so much. But one of the producers on ER saw that as a huge red flag. He didn't find her high-spirited moments enjoyable because he had seen the same behavior in a family member who ended up being diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So the manic episodes were more traumatic than favorable. At the time, Lisa didn't recognize the issue. So when the producers expressed concern, she just dismissed it and continued living her life the way she wanted to. But soon she realized the producer was right after she had her first psychotic breakdown in 1997.
So I was behaving in an odd way that brought it to the attention of someone I was working with. I was told that I was bipolar. There were attempts to treat me, but I was in complete denial about having the illness.
When that happened, Lisa tried her best to keep everything under wraps and continue working, but she had another one in 2000, and around this time there was no hiding it. It was all up in the headlines and everyone in Hollywood was talking about how she was hospitalized following the incident. The doctor diagnosed her with bipolar disorder and advised Lisa to get started with treatment immediately. But she said no. Mental health wasn't something people understood back then, much less took too seriously. And Lisa didn't want to admit to herself that there was something wrong and that she needed help. But Lisa did leave the hospital feeling better and was warmly welcomed back to ER to continue her role. But once season 5 wrapped in 2001, her contract was not renewed. And the same thing happened with her role in Ally McBeal. Once the 3rd season wrapped in 2001, she was written off the show. No one explained anything to her, so she just assumed that it was because of her bipolar disorder. But someone who worked on the set of ER said that Lisa wasn't brought back because the writers and producers didn't want to deal with her erratic behavior any longer. One minute she was fine, and the next minute she was running around the set hysterical. The challenge was that she wasn't even aware when she was in a manic state. And the truth is, they could have just demoted her character, Carla, versus killing her off completely because it was quite cruel for them to do, knowing that she hadn't figured out how to manage her diagnosis completely. But they saw her as a liability, and that was not going to be their problem. Lisa had always lived a very charmed life in showbiz, but once she was cut from 2 major shows and the news of her illness started making its rounds, no one wanted any parts of her, and she could not get hired. She was torn apart in the press, people treated her like she was insane, and Lisa suddenly found herself retreating out of the public eye, and she was dealing with a lot of pressure, trying to maintain a sense of normalcy in her life, but still there was only so much she could take, and Lisa ended up broke down again in 2004, and that was the worst thing she had ever experienced.
I was still trying to go to work. I was just always frantic that I would get sick again, and then I would which was really terrific. So I left.
She said that as she left the hospital, she realized that all of the outside noise and everything she was dealing with had to come second. Taking care of her health, physically and mentally, had to become her top priority, and she was going to fight with everything she had within her to win. She is no longer keeping quiet and is now working to expose the horrors that Black actresses have to face behind the scenes in Hollywood. And the people are really backing her up on this one. Go girl. Hollywood completely turned their backs on her because they didn't understand her struggle, now that 90% of this country is either currently experiencing or advocating for. It's so messed up that Lisa Nicole Carson got blackballed from Hollywood due to her struggles with bipolar disorder. Lisa Nicole Carson sharing her story is real. Mental health is real. Salute to her. Do y'all know any other actors or actresses that got blackballed for their mental health? Drop their names in the comments because it's high time that we show them some love. And make sure that you hit that like button and also subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye, baddies.